Dennis asks, regarding the coming post-human apocalypse, Tim Alberino podcast, talking about a restoration back to Adam and what we were meant to be. I've wondered, and here's my question, did Adam and Eve have glorified bodies?
There are a lot of questions that people ask where, I'm a science-driven guy, right? And so I think there's not enough data to answer some of these questions. But however, there is room for speculation. And so what I mean by that is clearly when we look back in the garden, we have this couple straight from the hand of God, pure, untainted by sin. We know that after they sinned, they were cast out, and a cherubim, was put to guard. So we can't really answer it from a historical perspective, but from a future perspective, there's a couple passages that give really evidence, which I think is fascinating, to what our future is like. In Philippians chapter 3, 20 and 21, it describes that we are citizens. Our citizenship is in heaven. Mm-hmm. But secondly, that our body will be our lowly body will be transformed into the glorious body that Jesus has. So after Jesus' resurrection, we don't necessarily see any lights shining off of him, but we do know that the resurrection body, especially according to 1 Corinthians 15, that whole passage, speaks about the changes, and the contrast would be a good way to say it. But in Matthew 13, Jesus makes this comment that the people who are believers in that day will shine like the sun. Now, granted, we know in Matthew 5, let your light shine, but I think what he's describing is something a little bit different, because we see his reference. Jesus most always had an Old Testament reference. I'll read to you Daniel chapter 12, because not only does he make that reference in Matthew 13, but in Daniel chapter 12, he's making reference to the resurrection. And that's important because the resurrection is a new body, by definition. And he says, Matthew 12, verse 2, many of those who sleep in the dust, he's talking about at the end, many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake, some to eternal life, and some to shame and eternal contempt. Those who are wise will shine like the bright expanse of the heavens, and those who lead many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. So the question always is that figurative language, or is that literal, straightforward language? I think because he's talking about those who are sleeping in the dust, which is a euphemism for death, being resurrected and coming back up, and then immediately describing them as being shining. I would answer the question, based on Matthew 13 as well, that I think our new bodies will reflect light. So that's kind of not really a direct answer, because we don't have enough information from Genesis 3. But I think if they were in a fresh new body that was uncontaminated with sin, it's possible, and then they lost their light. But I think the exciting thing is looking forward to our new bodies, which, according to Daniel and Jesus, both make reference to us shining. I think that's pretty straightforward, and I'll take it literal. When that day comes, if not, okay. Don't call me a heretic. Again, I'm speculating. But I think if we take it straightforward, so the short answer is it's very possible that they were shining in their glorified bodies. Or they didn't have them then. What I mean is in their untainted bodies. So,
well, I think the Lord loves for us to kind of speculate and to be creative and let our imaginations go wild. And one day maybe we'll know for sure.
Yeah, we definitely will.
I think once we're in heaven, whatever our glorified bodies look like, I think we'll be good either way. Like we'll be happy with what we have.
Well, if we see the angels, like the angels showing up, they're often surrounded by the glory of God, the Shekinah. And so if we reflect God, I can't imagine that we would not be able to do that as well, especially for our jobs during the millennium. We're going to be the task force and rule and reign with him. And so it would seem very appropriate. But again, that's the best we can do with the data that we have.
Yeah, I love it.